There's this huge bridge I've got to go along. It's very, very straight. Nobody seems to care about whatever speed limit it is, but we'll give it a go anyway. So I'm in sport mode, stability control is off. No, this is not a cartoon. This is the Hyundai INSTER. It's the fully electric evolution of the Hyundai Casper, which has been on sale in Korea for a few years. Despite being a little city car, it actually looks really cool. It looks like a concept car or something like that. It's got some great technology too. You can see there it's got active aero flaps, depending on what it needs. You've got your charging port in the front there with Type 2 CCS, Type 2 and CCS as well. Maximum charging, 85 kilowatts. There'll be two different batteries available in Australia as well, 42 kilowatt hours and 49 kilowatt hours. This is the latter, longer range, 370 kilometers official range, and then 327 kilometers for the short range version. Sorry about the sun there, it's right in my eyes at the moment. We're here in Korea checking out this for a first test drive before it arrives in Australia in the first quarter of 2025. One thing that's very cool about this is that it's practical. It's not just a kind of concept looking contraption. The rear seats actually slide back and forth. You can fold down all seats, including the driver's seat, for a completely flat space if you want to have a sleep or something like that. It's got sliding panels here, so even when you do adjust the rear seat, as you can see, it keeps a cover so it's all level. There's going to be a Insta Cross version as well, so it's a bit of like a SUV crossover type version, slightly raised ground clearance. And I've heard there might be an N-line version coming later down the track, just with some sporty details. This example's got the optional 17-inch alloy wheels, which do affect the range. So 370 kilometers range with 15-inch wheels, but with the 17s it drops it down a little bit. And yeah, in the cabin, more practicality. So you've got a full width shelf all the way along there. You've actually got 240 volt power or 250 volt power down the bottom, a little handy shelf halfway down and another one, and a sliding bench. Little console is connected to the driver's seat. Inside, yeah, like there's so much headroom. My head's nowhere near the ceiling. For a small little car like this, you'll be surprised how much space and the sense of spaciousness you have in here, which I think is really a point of difference compared with other petrol style small city cars like this. I like the twin screens. They're pretty conventional in terms of Hyundai technology. Very easy to use, and it does have a separate climate control panel down here, so you can make adjustments on the go. Now this is a Korean spec version obviously, so there might be some minor changes for the Australian version, but everything you see here will be pretty much the same as the Australian model. And then in the back you can see I've got the sliding seat, so you can adjust. If you want more boot space, just move these seats forward a little bit, but if you're carrying passengers you can just slide it back. Obviously that does reduce the boot space, but it's not too bad for a little city car like this. And again, heaps of headroom. Like even the legroom for me is absolutely excellent. I can sit in this seat that is all the way forward and still have legroom left over. I mean, that's in my driving position though. The ceiling actually is a bit concave and rises up further than the middle of the ceiling. I think that's probably the best part about this vehicle. The packaging is just insane. You really wouldn't expect this much room in such a small vehicle. Completely flat floor as well. There are only two seats in the back, so that does have some limitations there compared with some rivals. But yeah, for the amount of headroom and legroom that you're getting, it even, as I said, the sense of spaciousness is awesome. You've got a sunroof on this top spec model, which helps lighten up the cabin as well. All right, we'll go for a drive. I don't think we're going to have a chance to go on any winding roads to do any handling tests, but I will try my best to do a 0 to 100 for you. The official claim is 10.6 for this long range version and around 11 seconds for the short range version. I'll flash up the specs now. In Australia, city cars like this are not that popular, but in mega cities like Seoul, where we are now, they make a lot of sense because they're small, they're easy to park, easy to maneuver.
A speed bump is ahead.
And in my opinion, electric ones actually make even more sense because you don't have to worry about going to the petrol station ever. You can just charge it downstairs. They've got a small battery usually, and it's quick to charge. Yeah, and when you've got electric power, it's very zippy. You don't have to wait for a petrol engine to rev up. There's no gearbox, so you don't have to worry about changing gears. It kind of reminds me of just the ideal little skateboard that you'd get around on in the city. What I really like about this so far is the visibility is excellent. You've got nice tall windows, and it drives like a normal petrol car. It presents like a petrol car as well. because it is a extension of the previous petrol Casper. The roads here are actually pretty good compared with the crappy roads we have in Sydney and Melbourne, but it seems to ride really well for an electric vehicle that's, you know, got a pretty heavy platform. This weighs around 1,300 to 1,400 kilograms. The suspension seems to be absorbing the bumps without bouncing around. Some EVs will bounce a little bit or they'll just bottom out, whereas this seems like it's, yeah, got a decent ride. I'm not sure how it will be if you fully load it. You know, I mean, it's only a 4-seater as we saw, but if you fully load it, it might be a little bit different. All right, I might as well just throw it in the corner here a bit and just see how we go. That was a big bump, and it captured it okay. It didn't, it absorbed it okay, sorry.
Enter the underpass on the left.
It feels, yeah, it feels lighter than 1,400 kilograms actually. It's just, the weight is definitely all at the bottom. You can kind of sense that. Driving around here, you get a good sense of just how massive the Hyundai group is. Some of the buildings are even got Hyundai stamped on them. The hotel we're in last night got in the elevator and that said Hyundai on it. It's yeah, they don't just build cars, they build pretty much everything here. They've definitely got extensive manufacturing experience, so it's good to see the Insta has been expanded, or the Casper has been expanded to be included in more markets around the world, including Australia. The price is probably going to be the main you know, concern, I guess. It's going to be around $40,000 starting price, which puts it above some of the cheaper it puts it above some of the rivals, particularly from China, that offer perhaps a bigger package, sometimes more powerful package. So yeah, I think that's going to be a little bit of a hurdle for some buyers. But if you're after something a little bit unique with good refinements, good handling, this will be Australian tested as well. They've actually tested out a few different suspension setups and selected the best setup for Australian conditions. So you don't get that from a lot of the rivals, or any of the rivals really. So you are paying for that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it sells. The good thing about an electric city car is you don't have to rev the engine. So if you normally, you know, get a Kia Picanto or whatever, manual transmission, 5-speed, it's going to be revving pretty high at 100, 110 kilometers an hour. Whereas this, going at about 106, it's driving just like it is when it's doing 40 in the city. So you've got that refinement, kind of that extra level of luxury, I guess. We've got a few different driving modes here, including Eco, Normal, Sport and Snow. The Sport mode definitely improves throttle response. It's sharper, it feels zippier. I don't know if I'd call it sporty. It's still a little bit slow. It doesn't have that immediate pickup, but it's definitely fun. And if you're driving around the city and so on, actually I'll just slow down to about 60 and then just floor it. Show you the overtaking sort of kick down. Yeah, it doesn't have heaps of top end as you'd expect for a little car like this. But that, yeah, the sort of zipping around from 40 to 60 or 40 to 80, it's pretty good. Speaking of which, let's just do a quick 0 to 100 run. There's this huge bridge I've got to go along. It's very, very straight. Nobody seems to care about whatever speed limit it is, but we'll give it a go anyway. So I'm in sport mode. Stability control is off. I've got the the Regen on just the middle level. Not that that makes a huge difference, but I just like to just slacken it off a bit anyway. So we'll see how we go. And that's 100. That looks like it's done 10.8. 10.83. And that's with 82% battery. Sometimes EVs are a bit quicker with a full charge, but unfortunately I'm not able to do that during this test. That was 10.4. Aside from the driving modes, you've also got a number of different modes for the Regen. As with most Hyundai EVs, You just use the paddle shifters here. You've got a little gauge down there to show you what mode you're in. But basically all the way to the left is I pedal, and it gives you full braking power when you back off on the accelerator. You've also got a very clever auto mode. If you hold down the right shifter, it goes into an auto mode. It will actually use, well, I don't know for sure, I'll flash up the specs now, but it'll actually use, I think, the sensors, because if I approach that vehicle in front with my foot off the brake pedal, it'll start to brake the car and notice the vehicle in front using Regen power, which is kind of cool actually, really efficient. It gives you a bit more battery charge without even trying. But then it'll also slow down when you just, you know, back off the accelerator and there's a traffic light setup coming up or something like that. Then of course there's also a mode that's just very relaxed, so you back off the accelerator and it just rolls along. So right now I've got no foot on the accelerator, it's coasting a little bit, but now it's noticing that car is slowing down and it's braking for me. I'll put the brakes on just in case it doesn't come to a complete stop. So I've got a lot of versatility there, and I think that does provide some level of engagement. You know, it's not just a box on wheels that goes, you can actually play around with different modes and so on. In terms of the range, we've been driving now for maybe 45 minutes or something, and it started out at 414 kilometers and now it's got 339. The average consumption is at, there we go, it's done 68 kilometers and it's averaging 7.5 kilometers per kilowatt hour. I'll flash up the conversion to what we use in Australia, which is kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. But it's pretty good, it seems very efficient. I figured out a way to convert it. So 13.3 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is actually lower than the official rating, which is, yeah, that's very unusual. Normally you're pretty high above the rating, especially with petrol and diesel vehicles. And that's with me driving completely normal. I'm not, you know, overly efficient. We've got the aircon running. I'm in sport mode at the moment, so I've been fiddling around with the different modes. I'm not driving in I-pedal mode all the time either. So yeah, it definitely is very, or it seems very efficient. On first impressions, it's a very interesting little package, especially for Australia, where we don't have any really electric vehicles in this city car size. I think the main takeaway for me is it does feel sporty, it does feel like a zippy little car, but you're getting that excellent practicality with those folding seats, sliding rear seats, good cabin environments, plenty of storage space everywhere, as I said. And I guess you're paying for the engineering history of, you know, Hyundai's been building cars for over 50 years, so you can factor that in. It's good to see Hyundai Australia is going to provide some local testing for this, and they've selected a specific suspension tune. For more information, you can check out our full written review on the website, and yeah, I'll try and put together a full performance test when they arrive in Australia. Thanks for watching.